Come on, bitch, let's go. Come on, get ready, bitches. You haven't seen nothing yet. Come on.
Valentino, Versace, Lamborghini, Bugatti. I got money to burn. I'm single and I'm naughty.
Come on.
Tiffany's, Cartier, Gucci on Marty.
Come on.
Break out your black card, boys. It's time to party.
Now, you guys know that I have a very different outlook because I was on The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills on Bravo about the experience of being on a reality show and the dynamics of how this kind of messes with your head and all of these things. And there's been this phenomena that has happened where, this effect has actually impacted people who promote the show's content, not just the cast members of the different franchises. A lot of people don't realize that reality TV for the reality star takes over your life. Everything you do becomes about the show. It's very toxic. It's an inauthentic way of living your life, and it creates a lot of turmoil. It destroys marriages, and it destroys boyfriend and girlfriend situations, and it makes people do things that they wouldn't otherwise ever do, not just for the cameras, but off the cameras. And I have a unique insight into this. I want to say that I also am familiar with the laboratory games that the production company utilizes on their casts to get them to do things. What am I talking about? Number one, keeping them in places or locations for long periods of time that you normally wouldn't be there that long to exhaust you. Number two, giving you too much alcohol so you lose track of your judgment and you get sloppy, in some cases sick. Number three, making a situation where, the light on the camera goes on when you do awful things to your cast members and create drama, but when you don't do things like that, or you're considered quote unquote boring by the producers, the light goes off. So you're like Pavlov dog, you start to see the light go on when you do certain things and you train yourself to do it. Being in a constant state of fear that you're going to be kicked off the show, so you have to dig up shit and drama on other cast members. All of this is enabled by the production companies, some more than others. Evolution does it a little, but not too much. They're really conscious to not go that deep on things like that. They certainly enjoy when a cast member brings something up that naturally would have occurred and play it out on the screen, but they don't actively farm for gossip against other cast members. However, there is a production company, Shed, who has allegations from cast members that they do that. They actually farm gossip to make it part of the storyline on the cast of the show. Now, Shed has publicly denied this. They have said, I think, to Hollywood Reporter and Variety, we don't do this. We don't look for bad dirt on cast members and follow it. Just sort of happens in the natural scheme of things. No, we didn't cast Monica Garcia because she was reality Von Teese. We had no idea that was happening. Well, that's not what I've heard. So today's show, I'm going to spin it on its head, because by now you've seen that Gabriella has gone on Chrissy Ball's podcast and dropped loads of receipts on her account, Melissa's Old Nose, which, by the way, she hates the name of, and so do I. And essentially, she is going to tell you all these stories about things that Luis Ruelas and Teresa Giudice and Jim and all these people related to them were involved with. And what you're going to initially think is, oh, this is about Teresa and Louis and Jim and Melissa Gorga and Joe Garg. And I'm saying, no, that's not the case. This is about the production companies like Siren, Shed, and a little bit Evolution behind these reality shows, setting an environment that makes their cast members feel like, in order to stay on the show and make a good season, that they have to go to these extreme lengths to do horrible things on or about each other, depending on the person's chip, their judgment chip. Some people have really high conscience and they can't do some of the things that they probably could do, and they hold back. And other cast members, They don't have that chip. So they don't have a conscience. They look at it different. They're like, this is entertainment. This is a TV show. I can do anything I want here because it's for entertainment purposes. And so throw the guy's whole business under the bus, destroy his family, whatever. I've got carte blanche. And that's their chip. But really at the basis of this, it's the toxic environment set up by the production company. Now I know the only way to punish this situation. I know the only thing that will get to them. And I'm going to do it today on the show as retribution for all the people that they hurt by creating that toxic environment, in my humble opinion. This toxicity is hurting lots of people on and off the show, people that integrate themselves into the show's content. Bravo is an ecosystem. It is not just a show. It has influencers that make money off it and feed off it. It has cast members that rely on it for its livelihood. It has brands that feed on those cast members and those influencers. It has Andy doing his show that feeds off all the drama in the shows. It has production companies and showrunners that have to actually create drama to be able to keep selling the shows to Bravo and NBC. And like, if it doesn't meet the mark, then they can't sell the show and it goes on them and their careers are destroyed. This is a whole thing bigger than what the stories you're going to hear today. But one thing I know for sure, the one way that I can punish the network for allowing their production company to do this type of thing, if I'm correct in my assessment, and that is I am going to tell you all of everything that happens in season 14 to do with the show, which in no way, shape would they ever want. Because even though we're a small community out here, it's going to take some of the wind out of their sails. So I'm giving you a spoiler warning because by the end of this episode, you will know every single dirty laundry item of every cast member dug up by all the cast members of New Jersey at one moment or another, including Jennifer Aiden, Teresa Giudice, Luis Ruelas, and their attorney. But everybody. Because they all do it. Because they wanted to get it out there to create storylines. I'm just going to let it all out. We might as well just say it now. So here it is. You're going to know everybody's dirty laundry. You're also going to know at the end of this episode everything that happens in season 14. All the big moments, everything. And this is my retribution for cast members being incentivized to hire influencers that are highly impacted by their reality celebrity power and then end up in compromising positions no matter who you root for, whether it be Melissa Gorga or Teresa Giudice, because all of the cast have done it to one extent or another to fight for survival on the show. So I am doing this show for a completely different reason than everybody thinks. I'm doing this show to mark these production companies' card. That if they continue to promote this type of toxicity within their cast members, I'm going to find out that gossip and I'm going to spill it. And I've asked Gabriella to help me with this today since she has the unique insight of corresponding with Teresa and her whole camp and Jennifer Aiden for a united goal of taking down her cast members and creating storylines for the show. But I, of course, include some other stories that I know. I want to also say that Kim D is my girl. And I know that her and Gabriella are having a difficult moment. And I know some of this is because of what Teresa Giudice said about Kim D behind her back. Kim D is my friend. And Kim has reignited a beautiful friendship with Teresa she's really excited about. And this is obviously going to impact that relationship. I don't know to what degree. Kim D is going to have to decide for herself how she feels about it. I'm certainly going to share it with her. I am. But she's going to have to decide how she feels. And I will be inviting Kim D on the YouTube channel live with me to address these things next week herself. Because I think that Gabriella and Kim D have been pitted against each other in this realm very intentionally. And you should know I am not on anybody's team on New Jersey. I talk shit about all of them. So try to tell the good things and the bad things as I hear them. I don't really have a take on them either way. They all know this. So this should be a unique experience because of that. So I hope you enjoy the show. Let me bring Gabriella in. And if you don't want to know the entire season 14, I'd say jump off right now. Bye.
Come on, bitch, let's go.
Hey, Gabriella.
Hi.
How are you?
Hi. Hanging in there. Yeah.
Yeah, you and me both. You and me both. I'm really excited to actually speak to you. I have some tea. I know you've been dropping tea around a little bit to do with this social media kind of organized effort that you were involved in. I'm going to let you tell a little bit of that story in a minute, but I have tea for you too. So I'm excited to tell
Oh
you.
my gosh. Believe it or not, where I am right now in regards to like my journey with social media, sometimes I cringe when I hear that somebody has tea because I'm like in the process of purging everything and just letting the truth come out and just I can't wait for the day where social media is no more in my life.
I
I don't I don't
understand.
I don't want I don't want the scoop, the tea, it's so crazy, but I'm excited to hear what you have to say because I love listening to your pod.
Oh, thank you. That means a lot to me and the patrons, my community. We appreciate it. All right. So let me just let you tell initially the short version of the operation you were involved in that was sort of, as I understand it, mainly headed up by Jennifer, but there were other people involved like Teresa, a little bit Louis, the other guy, Jim or something. Tell me a little bit about that operation so everybody can quickly get in the know about that, because then I'm going to tell you my tea, and then I'm going to tell you what I want to do on the show today to give you a little justice.
Yes, and thank you. I totally appreciate your time too and letting me come on this platform and, not just talk about the receipts that I have that will back up what I have to say, but to give me a chance to put this out there because I really am right now in the process of like letting all the truth come to light because in order for myself personally to move on from this, I have to look at what I was a part of in the face, own and take accountability for my own actions and be able to use that as a stepping stone to walk away. So I really appreciate that you're giving me this time. But I started off as a fan. I watched Jersey since season 1. RHONJ is the only show I watch on Bravo TV. I don't watch anything other than Real Housewives of New Jersey. So I hopped on to social media through Twitter in June of 2022. And between June of 2022 to October, I was just there doing my thing, posting. I started off just as a tree hugger and I dipped into Jennifer Aiden as well. I started liking her and I started just being a fangirl and posting stuff for them. And then of course, like during drama, because Jersey's fan base, it's like cutthroat. You're either on the Gorga side or you're on Teresa's side. You're either for Margaret or you're either for Jennifer. Like, I think as I gather like the climate on social media in regards to all the Real Housewives franchises, I would say Jersey is the most toxic, the most like bullheaded fans you'll ever meet ever. So I hopped in the game and from the get-go, I was saying things like I was putting my stuff out there and people loved it. They were like, wow, this girl has balls. Like I went all in. And obviously doing such a thing and with the fandom, and their badness for Jersey, people started paying attention and I started growing and growing and growing. And before I knew it, I would drop a tweet and within an hour, I had about 80,000 views on it. I was getting thousands of likes. I was getting thousands of followers. And in and around October, Jennifer Aiden slipped into my DM. And I was like, oh my gosh, such a fangirl here. Like, love you guys. And I'm here for you, blah, 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 showing her the stuff I made for them, like fan art and things. And she's like, hey, I have tea for you. And then she started giving me, and this was October of 2022. So this was right after BravoCon, the incident she had with the Gorgas.
Why don't you tell me what you heard about that since you were talking to Jennifer?
Yeah. So she slipped in and she was like, oh, hey, like, what's up? What's the tea or whatnot? And I was just like, oh, totally love you or whatever. And she's like, hey, what's your name? I got some tea for you. No shade, but let me tell you, the panels are split. We're going to be here and they're going to be there. And I heard the grapevine that like certain people are really pissed off. They're agitated that the two panels are going on at the same time because Jersey didn't want to go at the same time as Beverly Hills because the Jersey cast that had to be on at the same time as Beverly Hills felt like they were going to be neglected in regards to attention. So in other words, she was telling me that like Margaret and Melissa and that panel was going to be on at the same time as another franchises panel and they were going to get overshadowed.
Wow.
So you know, she was giving me that so I could obviously throw it out there like, look at them. Nobody's paying attention. You know, like that's where that was going. And then on October 17th, she was like, oh, I got more tea. Like I walk into the hotel room with my assistant and then she starts telling me how Joe Gorga was yelling at her and she gets into that. And then she continues to tell me, go check out my assistant Erica's TikTok. There's a video there. And then she sends me exclusive videos that nobody has seen. And then she was like, oh, and by the way, like Tom Erna, which is Melissa's manager, he witnessed Melissa making out with Nick. And, you know, Laura Jensen was the one who told me, and that's some tea for you. So from the get-go, I was only like from June to October, I was only a couple months into this game and boom, my account was spotted. I totally believe it was targeted and it was about to be utilized because they knew my numbers. It really became like such a monster.
And let me ask you, why were you anti-Melissa in the beginning? Like what made you come in as anti-Melissa, which is obviously why Jennifer reached out?
Well, I mean, I got to know Teresa first. She was there for 2 seasons. So I naturally took a liking to her. And I like Teresa because Teresa's parents, you know, were off the boat. She's first generation. I'm first generation here. My parents are from Mexico. And so there was a lot of similarities in like the way Teresa's mom was with her, the way I was with my parents. You know, I mean, I have a sibling who didn't really help to do things. Like I was always involved with my parents. So I related to Teresa. So I, from the get, liked her. And then when Melissa came on and then you were constantly seeing that, oh, she got on behind my back. She did this, she did that. Like naturally liking Teresa first, I disliked Melissa. And so from there on, I was just a tree hugger. And then so fast forward, you know, 10 seasons later, however many seasons later, of June of 2022, and I created my account and it took off. To have Jennifer Aiden in my DM was a huge deal. I felt so special.
You should.
I was like, what? This is crazy. It's like when you meet a movie star, you know, on the streets. I live in the Valley North. I mean, I've been doxxed, but so people already know kind of where I'm at. I'm in the Valley North of Los Angeles. And I remember like going, because my daughter does have special needs, going to UCLA for her appointments and seeing Vin Diesel standing on the corner. And I mean, when you see someone famous, like it's like the fangirl in you. You're like, oh my God.
Okay, I just want to interject this into the show. Vin Diesel's producing partner for most of his movies is George Zach. And George Zach was my really good friend for many, many years. We used to party with Paris Latsis in Cannes on his yacht. And Vin Diesel, I did some of his independent films when he was working with Bob Yari, because I used to do all the Bob Yari movies. When I say did them, I did the sponsorship packages to pay for the events that promoted the films and also put the branding in the movies. And so I got to work with all the directors and producers at the highest level. And that's how I got to know George Zach, and socially, of course. But yep, wanted to insert that story in here. And if you want to hear my Paris Latsis George Zach story, search Paris Latsis in the Patreon and you can hear it. It's really good.
So when Jennifer hopped in my DM, I was like, what? And then I was like, oh my God, I love Teresa. I know you're her friend. Tell her I love her. So then I was like, let me make an Instagram. I made an Instagram. And then Jennifer's like, hey, Teresa's going to slip into your DMs. And then boom, the rest is history. I got close to them. I got their phone numbers. We were talking daily.
Oh my God.
We were, it just took off from there. And then things got sinister. It no longer became, wow, you're such a fan. Look at your platform. It became, hey, babe, listen, Margaret's really going to come at me during this scene that we just filmed. And I need you to please go look for her daughter because I know that there's shit there. And I need this uncovered. We need to find these people. We need to get the dirt. We need to put receipts and you're going to put it up. I mean, it was just one thing after another.
I have so many questions about that, and I want to ask you in a particular way. So hold on that. Let me now share my tea with you. And then I'm going to tell you how I think we could get justice. Are you ready? So
yes.
My tea is this. I know that one of the reasons you're coming forward is you kind of want the weaponization of social media accounts at the level that was happening to stop between, cast members, like people utilizing social media influencers to get really horrific narratives out about other cast members to try to create a self-fulfilling prophecy on the storyline on the upcoming seasons of New Jersey, right? So you're like, okay.
1,000%. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So I wanted to say that I've been told by cast members that Shed Media, which is the production company that does Salt Lake City, they actually go around to people around the cast members that they come in contact with, like they maybe don't end up being full-time cast members, but they're trying or whatever. And they ask for dirt leads on other cast members so that they can incorporate them into the storylines. This is a unique thing to Shed. Evolution doesn't do this. They have a different approach, which is probably why you don't see the kind of dirt you see coming out of other like Salt Lake and New Jersey on, OC and Beverly Hills. You sense the difference in the
Yeah.
Now, New Jersey is with Siren, and that's unique, that production company. I don't know if they do the practices of Shed, but I feel like maybe they do. And I did want to call that out in this episode.
Yeah.
Stories, right? So, yes. So I was told that Shed actually asks their cast members and people around them to give them intel so they can try to come out with things to out people on the show to create drama.
Yeah. Oh, no, I totally believe that. I mean, it's a drama-centered show. So, of course, production is constantly in their ear saying, hey, do you have a tip? Do you got a scoop? Like, let's look forward and see what we're going to do next year. What's the season line? Who's got the dirt? But where my story in regards to what's taking place with Teresa and Jennifer's camp and where this differs is that they took that, which is something production was promoting, to an entirely different level, to the point where I know for a fact, no matter how you want to slice it, there's no way on God's green earth that production was telling Luis Ruelas, we have to tag Walmart, sabotage Margaret's business because we want to come for her. And there's no way they were telling Teresa and Jim Leonard and Jennifer Aiden that we have to find Brittany because we have to put this out there because we need to ruin his reputation. We also want to get like horrific reviews on his personal business off the show to ruin that. So I totally believe that, what you're telling me. I totally get it. But this is like on a whole nother level.
I just think there's still an ethical question of how far these production companies should be allowed to do this type of deep dive on people to intentionally have it come out in a negative light on a national TV show. It's one thing to disclose your life authentically. It's another to have someone intentionally try to find information to hurt you. And I do feel like the production companies create an environment that the cast are expected to do that. So I don't think that that's actually normal producer type stuff that you do on a reality show.
Yeah.
You're supposed to do it more like Evolution does, which is you study what the people are doing and you kind of take the show from there. And if it comes out naturally, you cover it and you maybe dramatize it in the edit. But that's pretty much the way it goes. It's much darker, the type of stuff coming out in the way that it's coming out. And they're getting rewarded with great ratings and the fans get really jazzed about it and it's very sensationalized. But I wanted to say to you that I don't think that's right. I think that's really sinister to do your cast members. And I don't like that, I'm saying. And so I guess what I wanted to do today is I wanted you to punish the production companies doing this like Siren and Shed Media. How about that? Okay.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, I totally would condemn that 1,000,000%. It's so wrong what they're doing because in reality, if they're really here and they are encouraging people around the cast and the cast themselves and maybe even their representation, PR, lawyers, assistants, whoever else, works with these girls on the show, they are encouraging digging and doing this and doing that.
Yeah. So let me tell you how I want you to punish them. Are you ready?
Yeah.
I want you to tell me all of episode 1 and the biggest moments from season 14 that you're aware of, spoilers, to punish them for promoting this kind of sinister attack on cast members' secrets and all this stuff. And this is actually the only thing that can hurt them. That's the only thing that can punish them.
Yeah, it's such a dangerous environment for people to do such a thing because then you're going to get competitive and these girls are going to one up each other and then the things just get darker and darker and darker to the point where they're ruining livelihoods over a damn show.
And you trusted me, even though you knew you shouldn't.
So, yeah, that's gross. Okay, so in regards to season 14, episode 1, which is going to air...
It's going to air tonight. on Bravo. So we're going to get it ahead of time.
Yeah. Okay. So what we're going to see is there's already been a little preview. Only thing I will say about the preview they gave us, we see a scene where Pauly and Delores are having dinner with Louis and Teresa. And at that sit down, Teresa lets Pauly and Delores know that Frank Catania met with Louis after season 13 reunion, and he made it clear to Louis that the cast all met up at Margaret to so-called plan against Louis to come for him at the reunion. So that was put out there. But what I like kind of laughed in regards to that scene when I watched it was I thought to myself, I know, and I even tweeted about this. I said, I know Teresa's not bothered that the cast all met up at Margaret's before the reunion to come for Louis. When number one, he said on national television that Bo Dietl was investigated and had a file on each and every single one of them. Number two, she, for the whole year that I was involved with her, did nothing per her lawyer, but look and dig and plant and plot and scheme against the cast for a narrative. So the hypocrisy was on another level. And then let me just throw a little tea that nobody knew. Donald Trump's son was at that restaurant that night. Teresa, when she finished filming, she called me to give me the scoop as she did every time post filming. And she's like, oh my gosh, Donald Trump's son was upstairs. And the cameras didn't go with us, but we went up there and we took pictures and we said hi. And I was like, well, why didn't you post it? You know, and I'm not a political person. I don't care if you're liberal or Republican, whatever. I'm not into it. But I was like, why didn't you post that? And she's like, honey, I can't let people know that I support Trump. I'm going to lose fans. And I was just like, oh, okay. You know, miss, I don't give a shit about nothing. Okay, whatever. So anyway, so then they filmed that. And then we're going to see Teresa on the phone in the kitchen. And she's like, oh my gosh, Louis, did you just see what was on social media about John? And then she brings up, I think, like the dildo thing that Brittany mentioned in the DM with me. So there, that was her. Boom, she threw it out there. Then we see Jennifer Aiden and Teresa on their way to Jen Fessler's birthday party. And Jennifer was like, oh, Teresa, did you see John Food is a freak? Like, did you see what's out there? And then they touch on the DM again. And then while they're at Jen Fessler's, Jennifer is talking at the bar to Rachel Fuda, and then up walks Teresa because Jennifer was taking too long. And by the way, I have text messages of Teresa telling me that they were going to film at this location, giving me the tea afterwards. Like she called me, she spilled. Anyhow, so then we see them talking, and then her and Rachel go back and forth. And then Teresa, boom, says, your husband's a drug dealer. Then she walks off, and her and Jennifer are getting some candy. And then Teresa's like, I know she doesn't want me talking about the dildo. And then she goes off in regards to that. When I watched that, Dana, I was like cringe. Like I felt like I was part of the production team and I was watching what I helped produce play out, because for months I knew that Brittany's DM was going to be posted. I knew because I was directed to reach out to Brittany so that Teresa could have a storyline for season 14. I mean, we will touch on Vanessa because Vanessa Reiser was also going to be part of their storyline this season.
I know
however,
that. What was supposed to happen with Vanessa Reiser this season that you heard?
Well, I knew because I was a part of like the whole investigation against Vanessa. So I was privy to so much information that definitely crossed lawyer-client privilege. Like I was given so much behind the scenes that I'm pretty sure if Vanessa Reiser wanted to call for a new trial, she could. So back in November of 2022, I made Louis aware, a friend and I, and then like several people, they were constantly like sending stuff and they were like, oh my gosh, Vanessa just posted something like Gia's song lyrics and she's referencing the girls and this and that. So I remember reaching out to Teresa and I was like, hey, you know, I know this is his ex. I know she's throwing jabs and stuff like that online. And she's like, well, yeah. And then she's like, well, let me tell you, Gabriella. And then she went into this whole story of how Louis was a victim and how it's just been so crazy and so hard on her life. And I was like, okay, I get it. So then boom, I get a phone call from Teresa and she's like, let me get Jim on the line. And they were like, listen, we need you to keep an eye on this girl. And I mean, I have DMs, text messages with Jim Leonard where he is saying, keep an eye on her. Post this, say that, do this, do that, send me this, send me that. And some of it is in regards to Kim D.
What does it say? Because you know I know Kim. What did it say?
In regards to Kim D,
yeah.
I remember Teresa at one point was curious as to who began talking about Louis. Like, we want to know, was it Margaret? Who was putting all the stories out? Like, go back years, because people were bashing Louis since 2021. Teresa was like, go online. I need you to find me who was doing this. And I remember I sent on a text thread between Jim and Teresa. I was like, hey guys, so I was doing a little digging and I found out, yes, Margaret gave like one little comment and Vanessa herself commented in regards to the situation, but it was Kim D who I found the most articles on talking about Louis. And Jim was already from the get-go, because I already knew their plan. They were trying to flip Kim D. He was like, I don't want to see this. Like, we're trying to flip Kim.
What are they flipping?
They want to flip Kim because Jim Leonard told me Kim has stuff on Louis that if anyone ever found out, it would ruin him and Teresa. And since Teresa is his client, he has to absolutely protect Louis any which way possible. And if whatever they had to do to get Kim to not talk on Louis, they were going to do it. So as I was sitting here giving them the information they requested, that it was Kim D who was putting out the most negative articles about Louis since back in 2021, Jim was like, nope, don't want to hear it because we're trying to flip her, because we need her, because we cannot have her talk. Just like how they told me when I found out Roxanne from All About the TRH was involved in some stuff, he told me, hey, she knows where the bodies are buried. You've only been in this for about a year. She's been working with me for years. She knows where the bodies are buried. We cannot go against that.
Wow.
So,
wowzers.
I mean,
okay, so I'm interjecting this into the show. You best bet that Kim D is not the only one who knows where all the bodies are buried.
And let me touch on Kim really quick, because she's saying a lot of stuff about me. I am not shocked that she's doing that. I knew from the get-go Roxanne was going to be in her ear, and I'm pretty sure Jim was as well, because this is how the camp works. And I know how the camp works. I was the one out there doing what Kim is doing to me. Of course she's going to attack me. They have to discredit me. That's how it works. You discredit the mouthpiece so you can silence them, and you bully them into submission so they don't keep spreading the message against you.
But
so
wait, what was
Kim
this?
like,
because I remember that Kim had said to me that somebody was posting like expose things about her online, which was setting her off. Was that you? Jeez.
No, people were posting my text messages with Roxanne, and in our text messages, it was no lie. Roxanne and I did not like Kim. And we were going back and forth. Like, is Teresa stupid? Why is she talking to Kim? Kim talks so much shit about Louis. Teresa, what are you thinking? What are you doing? Like, unfollow this girl. Like, it was no secret that Roxanne and I did not like Kim.
So what happened is Kim was getting to become friends with Teresa. At this time, you're still fangirling or influencing or being part of her organized PR BS for Teresa. And so you're saying to other people helping Teresa, I can't believe Teresa's becoming friends with Kim D, because Kim D was the one who spilled all the tea about Luis Ruelas and Teresa Giudice and said she didn't like her and all this stuff back in, a while ago. And you're like, why would Teresa do that? Because we're protecting Teresa. Is that correct?
Correct. Jim Leonard made it so clear that I was not to send Teresa any videos of Kim talking shit about her. He said, listen, I'd rather have Kim talking about how Teresa and Joe Giudice cheated on each other or whatever, and the dogs were killed back in the day, than for her to be talking about Louis. So, done. Don't you dare, like, Teresa's on emotion. She acts on it. Do not bring her nothing negative about Kim. We need to flip Kim. We need Kim silent. Like, he kept pressing that. So at one point I was just like, it's pointless. I'm done, like, trying to convince Teresa to not hang out with Kim.
You know what I love? You know what I love about this? The irony, because Kim is close with Teresa now, and you're anti-Teresa now. So you guys have both flipped at the exact same time in a different way.
Yeah.
It's hilarious. And, I just did a live with her saying, she said, I changed my opinion. And I think she was meaning that she changed her opinion about Teresa.
And here's the thing too, like, me exposing all of this, I'm not trying to change anyone's opinion. I'm not trying to make you hate Teresa or Jennifer or their camp. I'm just going to put the receipts out and let them speak for themselves. I'm just here to tell my story and how I was 1000% manipulated into doing the most horrendous things against the cast. Yeah. I'm not trying to make you an anti-Teresa fan. Like, I'm not trying to have them fired. Somebody put the narrative out that, oh my God, you're trying to get them fired. No. And I'm not even expecting Bravo to do anything.
They won't do anything. They won't do anything because Shed's behind it. Because Shed's behind it partially. me. I know they are.
Yeah, I just say that if Bravo does nothing, NBC Uni does nothing, the production company does nothing, then they're telling the girls on the other side of the fence, hey, anything goes. Because if these girls get to investigate, plant, scheme, and lie, so do you.
Okay,
and do it in the worst ways.
So let's continue the punishment, because I'm telling you, this is the only justice you're getting. Okay, there's only one thing that hurts NBC Bravo. They're spoilers. Bottom line.
Yeah.
So give them to me. In the first Keep episode, them coming. Keep them coming.
Yeah. So in the first episode, we're just going to totally see the narrative and the scheming that Teresa, Jennifer, and Jim Leonard planted against Fuda. That's going to play out. Second episode, we're going to see the party at Nate Cabral's celebration of life down at the shore. I remember Teresa was filming. When she got done filming, I remember Jennifer Aiden in the background screaming because Taylor Swift was in the area and she was all excited in the background. And I was like, how did it go? And she goes, oh, filming went great. Guess what? And I was like, what? And she was like, Jen Fessler just said on camera that everybody met up at Margaret's before reunion. So now we have what Frank said and now we have what Jennifer said, but what Jennifer said was filmed. And I was like, oh my gosh, Teresa, that is so great. So they all met up, right? And she was like, totally. And she's like, yes, they did, Gabriella. And then I was like, how did you take it? And she was like, you're going to be so proud of me. I was getting emotional. And I was like, well, yeah, that's very emotional. She's like, no, but you should have seen me. You're going to be so proud. Like she was bragging how she was acting, that she even tells her she's a special person.
Oh God.
Like, and we saw that. And we saw that too. So actually, it's so funny. Oh my gosh. People can head over to my Twitter. And I remember when the trailer dropped for season 14, I tweeted on March 8th, a picture of Teresa and Jen Fessler interacting, and Teresa's all emotional and they're hugging. And I said, this scene will be epic. And then I put Jen Fessler spill. And so I tweeted that, knowing what Teresa had told me, that she admits on camera that everybody met up at Margaret. So more than likely, when we see episode 2 and we see that scene, we're going to see Teresa getting emotional and we're going to see Jen Fessler ratting out the rest of the crew.
Wow. All right, what else you got? What else you got?
So we're going to see towards the end of the season, this scene to me, which is the scene that Teresa and Jim Leonard said is going to be like the scene to break the season. Teresa was convinced that this is the scene that's going to change people's opinions on Louis. He's going to be vindicated. They're going to see that the whole cast plotted against him in regards to Vanessa Reiser, that it was all a setup. This is the scene that's going to like vindicate Louis. So there is a scene where Teresa and her lawyer invite the girls over to her house so the lawyer can tell everybody on camera that on the stand, because Louis was in court with Vanessa during this time, on the stand that it was admitted that Joe Gorga and Margaret Joseph talked to Vanessa. And Teresa gets all emotional. She's like, babe, you're going to be so proud of me. I even lost my voice. The producers were like, this is the scene. This is going to like, you know, knock the ball out of the park, blah, blah, blah. Like, this is it. And I just thought, oh my gosh. And what happened? She said she talked about how she mentioned her kids and she was getting emotional. And I was like, really? She's like, oh, I did so good. You're going to be so proud of me. And she had just filmed the scene after she talked to me. Right before she talked to me, and I just thought, you don't sound like you're crying. And she was like, oh, I did so good. Like she was laughing about it, like almost like she was acting.
Yeah.
So I remember thinking that's pretty gross. I also remember that right before that scene was filmed, she called and she told me about Jen Fessler. And she was so fucking pissed. She's like, could you believe it? Everything they've done to Louis. And Jen Fessler literally said she's not coming out of loyalty to Margaret. What the fuck, bitch? Like she was just going off that Jen Fessler did not come to this scene out of loyalty to Margaret because Jen Fessler knew they were going to tell the girls on camera, per the lawyer, that the cast was talking to Vanessa Reiser. But let me tell you where this gets a little bit like tricky. When they filmed that scene, it was days before the court actually like finished and before the verdict was given. I know for a fact because they told me. And with any court hearing, you're not supposed to talk about this stuff. It's supposed to stay there. So the fact that the court hearing had not been done with, and we have an actual lawyer who holds a law degree on national television filming, talking about the trial, that should be a really big red flag to a lot of people, especially that judge.
Now, you mentioned to me another thing, which was Jennifer Aiden got pissed at Teresa Giudice behind the scenes after they had shot together. What was that scene?
Yeah, so we're also going to see the Namaste Bitches live event. This is not out there anywhere. we are going to see, and I say it like that because, nobody's touched on it. And I'll tell you why people haven't touched on it, because even the people who became aware of it, Jennifer was so furious. She didn't want it talked about. So we're going to see the Namaste Bitches live event where Melissa Feaster and Teresa Giudice filmed with the girls, and they were there. Danielle was there. She showed up. So we're going to see a scene where all the girls are together, like in this little room, just mingling. And then boom, a huge fight breaks out between Danielle Cabral and Jennifer Aiden. That evening, I remember even the next day, like when I was talking to them, Jennifer was beside herself. She was so mad. She was like, Gabriella, I'm so fucking pissed. I fucking do nothing but go to bat for Teresa. Nothing. She just sat there. Nobody did anything, Gabriella. Nobody fucking defended me. I'm so fucking tired. Like, I'm on a fucking island. Come on. You're supposed to be my friend. What the fuck? No one against Danielle defended me. Like, Teresa, I'm so sick of it. I'm tired. All I do is go to bat for her. She never fucking jumps in. I'm sick. So
Wow.
I know there was a huge fight between those two girls, and Teresa did not step in. And Teresa even told me, oh my gosh, Jennifer's going to be so mad. Like, I stayed out of it. And so, I mean, they both were aware how pissed they were at each other. So that's another thing we're going to see.
So let me ask you a question. How does Teresa feel about the cast, in your opinion, after interacting with Teresa and her little crew there?
I just think she just cares for herself.
Does she really hate Melissa Gorga and Joe Gorga?
Oh, for sure.
Okay.
For sure.
Does she really like Kim D?
No.
Does she like Jennifer Fessler in real life?
I say she sees her as like a pawn.
How does Teresa feel about Margaret Josephs in real life?
She hates her.
How does
they refer to her as a pig?
Elaborate why you said that, because I know there's a reason you said that.
Well, it started with Louis. He was the first one I heard call her a pig, but it just trickled. Like I caught like the pattern when like he would be like fucking pig, and then she would just she is a fucking pig. Like she would Teresa, I'm not going to like take anything away from her, because I totally think she knows 1000% what she's doing. She's so good at playing the role of, I don't know what's going on, guys, but she totally does. But she is very much childlike in the sense where like her husband can get her from 0 to 100 in like a second.
Yeah.
He can work her up like no other. I'll give you an example. He was supposed to go on the Namaste Bitches podcast, and he didn't. And there was a reason why he didn't. And even Teresa was like, working herself up on the phone with me, because Louis was working her up. I could hear it in the background. He was going off, he was screaming. I mean, at one point she even threw her phone. So she very much follows his lead.
Why did she throw her phone, do you think?
Because he was stressed out, screaming in the background.
Because Louis was yelling at her?
He was stressed out, screaming, cussing in the background, how he's not fucking ready. He's feeling pressured. And she's like, see, I don't want him to feel this. Why is this being put out? Like, he's not ready. Like, she was like taking herself to another level because of him. And like I said, I've only been here for about 1.5 years, so I can only speak on what I know. I could only imagine, like when Jim Leonard says Roxanne knows where the bodies are buried. Oh, I could only imagine how much she is aware of. But when I say, I'm sure things have always been dark, but once Louis entered the picture, things got into a whole nother level.
So you're saying that Teresa and Jen would conspire to get information on the cast and get that out there with the influencers to kind of get people on side with them. But it went to a next level of dark.
With Louis, yes. For example, Walmart and Margaret. That was all Louis. Finding her kids. That was all Louis. There was several things. I mean, yes, they're on a drama show. Of course, these girls are going to gossip and try to get the scoop and shame and do this and that. I would say he took it to a whole nother level.
So it's at this point I want to remind you of the live that I did with Kim D last week. In the last 35 minutes of that show, I read to you a lawsuit that Vanessa Reiser is not party to, but an attorney is. And this attorney is filing a lawsuit against Bo Dietl's firm and some of his employees, as well as Luis Ruelas, as well as an attorney that's related to Luis Ruelas and Bo Dietl. And what happened was, just a really cliff note of it, is this attorney found evidence in an email from one of Bo Dietl's detectives or whatever that he received as a law firm, where Bo Dietl seems to have hired a fake client to go undercover with Vanessa Reiser and pretend to be a patient to trick her into talking about Luis Ruelas to hurt her career and credibility, potentially. Also, maybe some other things. I don't know. I don't know what their whole scheme was, but he finds evidence of this in the law firm's email because the attorney that Bo Dietl and Luis Ruelas were using had suddenly quit the law firm, and he was put in charge of the emails, and he felt that there had been a breach in ethical rules regarding attorney practices. And so he contacted Vanessa Reiser and sent her the evidence that his law firm received, that this attorney had received that quit, saying this was unethical and I just wanted to make you aware of it. So Vanessa then finds out that one of her clients is fake. She sensed it too, because this particular client hadn't paid their bill, which was unusual. And so Vanessa also was flagged for that reason. And this is a very serious allegation. Anyway, Vanessa Reiser, I have no idea how she's addressing this, if she's taken it for criminal or what, but I'm sure she's doing something with it. And then meanwhile, this attorney filed a civil litigation for damages against the attorney that was working for the law firm and accepted this very unethical information from Bo Dietl and his firm and related detectives, etc., about this plant. Also, Luis Ruelas, who he believes orchestrated this scheme with Bo Dietl to get this information on Vanessa Reiser. So he's filing his own lawsuit to say, listen, I also found evidence in addition to what Vanessa Reiser had happened to her. I found evidence that they broke into my computer system on my office and home and copied files from our law company to see and spy on what I was doing regarding this matter after I found this evidence and submitted it to Vanessa Reiser because I was concerned, like a whistleblower. And so he's saying, I'm suing them for breaching loads of ethical rules as a detective, as a human being, Luis Ruelas, as a lawyer who Bo Dietl was working with, that they then went on and they tried to damage control him alerting Vanessa by spying on him and downloading privileged materials of clients unbeknownst to him using some hacking scheme. So yeah, it's a mess. But anyway, go listen to the whole lawsuit. It's really in depth. But I wanted to insert that in here because I think it's important.
And I think when I peel all the layers back and I'm standing in the middle looking at the mess that surrounds me, what really strikes me the most is that there is a man involved in this operation who holds a law degree, and he is very much aware of what is taking place.
I want to ask you a question for a second about some of the spoilers we've been discussing, if you don't mind. Luis Ruelas was supposed to have taken Teresa's money or something. What was that about that you know of?
They never really talked money. And if anything, Luis was always bragging about how much money he has. I do know Teresa told me that their money is very much separate in separate accounts and that she has her own and he has his own. I do remember the Cartier bracelets being discussed and how they were so embarrassed. So I remember that was the very first time I questioned how much money he really does have, because if he's a multimillionaire, why was he buying knockoff Cartier? So
good question.
A lot of things, a lot of other things. I remember one day Kim D touched on the fact that that house could possibly be in DMS's name and Teresa's not tied to it. I remember Teresa telling me that as long as she just doesn't know what's going on and her name's not on anything, she'll never be in trouble.
Okay, so you also are privy to some insider intel, which is that Teresa Giudice and Luis Ruelas and Jennifer Aiden have, I guess, a direct line into the Sun, and they spill their tea through the Sun. Is that right? Am I doing that right? The gossip rag, the Sun?
Yeah. I was on the phone with Jim Leonard, and he made it very clear that Diana Cooper at the Sun is on their team. And this is how I know what he's telling me is the truth, because on April 5th, the Sun, Diana Cooper, dropped an article about Britney, John Fudezek. And it was no coincidence that 15 days before season 13 reunion was filmed, that article got dropped. Then also, in the middle of June, when I was DMing with John Fudezek's Britney, the Sun released another article per Diana Cooper talking about Britney to keep her in the press. There was a reason why she was going to stay relevant, and they needed her out there because she was going to use Brittany's DM against John Fuda as season 14 storyline. So yes, they have connections. I'll give you another connection they have. They have a connection with a reality blurb as well. And this is how I know. I would post things on my Instagram and Jim and Teresa would be like, oh, someone's picking it up. Who do you think picked it up? Reality Blurb. If you go to Reality Blurb's website and you put in all RHONJ facts or even Melissa's old notes, about 20 articles will pop up where Reality Blurb, which is a national syndicated website for reality news, was taking stuff from my blogger platform as references for their article. You got to ask yourself, and we all know everyone does it on every franchise where they've got their connections in the press at TMZ, wherever else.
Here's what's really shocking about that, if true. It's one thing to leak a story to a press outlet, but it's another thing to have that press outlet favor one reality star over another, let's say. So yeah. I guess the question is, do you feel like they were biased in their coverage because Teresa was so important that they would maybe
1,000%. Yeah. So here's how I saw it. I saw it as, again, their motto was, it has to be in the press. It has to be on social media in order for Teresa or Jennifer to talk about it on the show. And another form in this operation of getting things escalated to another level is not just having the little bloggers on social media post stuff and retweet and share it to their stories and TikToks about it. It was to get it picked up by national reality websites like Reality Blurb, and that will further amplify their narrative. So we had things on the ready. We had it planned. Gabriella will drop this. Reality Blurb will pick it up. It will circulate here. It will circulate there. It's going to be out in the public. The Sun is talking about it. All of the little bots and minions on social media are talking about it. We're going to amplify this message. So if Teresa decides to call John Fuda a drug dealer, guess what? It's not going to look so bad because everyone's talking about it. The only reason why everybody was talking about it was because of them.
How did you get the Brittany text messages? How did you get her to talk to you?
Those were DM. I remember seeing the articles and I was like, oh my gosh, she's talking, and they were like, yeah, of course she's talking. And I remember I was on the phone with Teresa and Jim and he was like, hey, you know how you can find her? You're going to have to just look underneath where they got the pictures on the article. She has an Instagram. So what did I do? I went and I looked for her Instagram. I found it. And I was like, guys, I found it. Slip into her DM. I slipped into her DM and boom, it just took off from there.
So you kind of tricked Brittany because they told you to talk to you?
I didn't trick her. I just started off with hey, and I can repost those, although I did take them down because they were so deep and dark, Well,
they're about to go on TV, so...
Yeah. So I don't think I saw in the preview, in the first episode, I don't think I saw them use the thing unless I overlooked it. But anyway, I remember just having a natural conversation with her, again, like how they always said, please just approach her and see what comes of it. And then the moment I got her talking, they were like, boom, keep it going. And I did. And she just started saying stuff. And then we got that. And we realized, I remember it was July 6th. I was on the phone with them and they were like, we got to put that DM out there. We got to put specific parts out, this and that. And I remember the point was made that talking about what he liked to do in the bedroom, which again, it's all alleged, but she did put it out there. But anyway, talking about what someone likes to do in the bedroom is not as hard hitting as it accusing somebody of being a drug dealer. So naturally, the talking about the double-sided dildo thing on TV was just to make fun of him, which I think it's weird that you're going to make fun of somebody for that because we're in a very sexually liberated culture. I don't even know why they would try to use that. But anyway, they throw that out there. And then number two, they made it very clear that they had to specifically touch on the drug dealer because that will damage business. That is what needed to be reiterated. Drug dealer. And what do we see Teresa do in the first episode? She calls him a drug dealer.
Is she retaliating for Luis Ruelas because Fuda went up against Luis in the reunion for season 13?
Yeah, and also because she made it very clear to her brother and Melissa that bye, sayonara, I'm not going to see you guys anymore. She really thought they were going to be gone. And then when she realized that they were coming back on July 6th, which is when Roxanne dropped that exclusive, Now, you guys should know by now, when she drops exclusives in regards to Jersey, that's coming from Jim Leonard, Teresa Giudice, or Jennifer Aiden, because those are her sources. She likes to say sources close to production. No, I know exactly where her sources are.
She did post pictures of her on her Instagram at Luis Ruelas at Teresa's house at a party. So it's pretty obvious they were tight, like really tight.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And I remember there was times where Teresa was going to Michigan to see Gabriella, and Teresa was going out to eat with Roxanne. And I remember they would post the story and then they would erase it and delete it. Like they didn't want people to see it. I mean, they couldn't make it any more obvious. But anyway, on July 6th, Roxanne posts the exclusive that all the cast was returning. That was the same day I had a conversation with Teresa about how we got to put that DM out there, because she did not want to use her brother for a storyline, because she had already gave them the kiss of death. She was never going to see them again. So she was determined not to film with them. So she, again, needed a storyline. They weren't going to be able to tap into Louis and Vanessa Reiser storyline until the end of the season. So she ended up discussing John Fuda as the storyline.
Where did they go on their group trip? Do you know?
They didn't have one. Remember the house burned down?
Oh yeah.
They were supposed to go to the Berkshires. Yeah.
I remember that now. So
yeah, what an omen, huh? That right there was something big. I'd say that's a sign.
That was the house is burning.
It sure is.
What does Teresa think of Danielle Cabral, going back to that?
Oh, that's another one. So I say in the beginning, she was cool. They liked her. And then things went sour. And that had and Jim Leonard said it himself. The whole Danielle Cabral thing going south had to do with Roxanne. Roxanne, from All About the TRH, went to Danielle's Party Like a Housewife fundraiser at the beginning of last season. And I remember like Roxanne was complaining to Jennifer Aiden how she was treated poorly. And Jim was like, she was working up the girls. And we don't need the cast divided because we're already singled out, because you got Margaret, Melissa, and Jackie, and you have like all these girls over here. And then Teresa and Jen are on the island. The last thing we need is to lose Danielle Cabral, according to Jim Leonard. So I remember he was very pissed off and furious that Roxanne was fighting in regards to Danielle. And I remember taking a step back and thinking, does Roxanne think she's a housewife? I'm so confused. Why would anyone give a shit if Roxanne doesn't like Danielle? I don't like Danielle, but I'm not over here acting like if I'm on the cast. It was crazy.
I do want to say one thing at this point, which is reality TV, when you're on it, is an all-encompassing experience. There's no beginning and end. You think about it all the time. You constantly do everything for the show. You're never doing anything like a normal person. Everything is always intentionally to be seen. And
for sure.
When you're an influencer in reality TV and you start to get integrated in the behind the scenes plot points, and you're like a secret producer of the show, which happens a lot with predominant influencers, you can also lose yourself in all of this. And so I'm sure you experienced a little of it. I'm sure Roxanne actually has experienced that. She's so integrated in it now. It's like her life. It's not like for fun anymore. It's deeper.
Yeah, no, I get it. And I mean, I have people currently saying that I'm just an obsessed fan. It's like these people don't realize how deep I was tied to these people. And yeah, it is consuming. But I just do remember the fallout between Jennifer Aiden and Danielle Cabral began after that night at the Party Like a Housewife event that Danielle hosted. And then from there, things just started spiraling between Jennifer and Danielle. And then I remember it carried on into this season. And I think Teresa was totally cool with Danielle up until a point. I do have something really dark to say in regards to this. And I don't know if you'll want to edit this out and save it for Patreon.
And at Gabriella's suggestion, I'm going to start the Patreon part of the show here. We have another hour of gossip to drop about season 14. We also, oh my gosh, you're going to get some serious behind the scenes scoop about stuff you're going to watch on the upcoming season 14. If you bother after this, I'm sure some of you will be even more jazzed about it. Some of you less so. But either way, I'm happy with my FU to shed so far. And remember, the Patreon's only $6 a month. I drop shows constantly and the continuation of this show. I hope you'll join us in the Patreon and get in the chat and let me know what you guys think about today's show. I'm dying to know. You can comment under the audio. It's awesome. And you might be curious as to one element of what's in the Patreon. And what it is I asked for all of the storylines that Teresa Giudice wanted out about her castmates. You know, I said, let's just say what they are, because like this woman is working so hard, like overtime, to get the producers to cover her cast members' dirty laundry. At this point, let's just spill it because it's going to be cathartic and maybe it'll take some of the toxicity out of the show because we all know it now. Boom, cat's out of the bag. All right. And then you guys decide how you feel about it, if it's true or not. You feel bad, like shouldn't some things be left off TV? Probably, all that. So I'll leave you there. See you in the Patreon for the rest of today's show.